Thank you all so much for being here, and it's such a pleasure. Sustainability very clearly is something that is important, and sometimes we think of sustainability in the environment and what we need to do to be a force for good. We apply it to certain industries, and we think it's really important in only X or Y industry, you know, electricity or automobiles or energy. But actually, sustainability is something that perhaps we should think about all across in every sphere, and specifically also in areas like fashion, and that's what we're going to be here to do. So why don't I start with you first, Mr. Kudumi? If you look at the aspects of sustainability, where when it comes to intersecting with the lives of craftsmen and craftspeople, how does that work?
From the human aspect, I believe, first of all, you know, World Craft Council International, since its inception in 1964, this is the 60th Diamond Jubilee anniversary of this organization. And right from the beginning, it has been for the supporting and for the support of handicrafts communities. Also making sure that, let's say in fashion, making sure that the old techniques, the traditional techniques should remain in being encouraged, because how they do it. I actually personally went to Kutch and with one of the designers of India, and I stayed in these villages for about 3 to 4 days, and actually went to one craftsman at his home with his family and saw the whole process from the cow dung used as energy and used in the process of fermenting organic colors to the actual weaving. It was very eco-friendly.
Dr. Murray, if I could turn to you, when it comes to you know, the actual, what is it that you would be telling, you know, various people in communities as advice? For example, when it comes to sustainability, it's in their own lives, but also the processes that are being followed to make sure, for example, that water is being conserved. And many of these people come from areas where there's water scarcity. So the traditional methods that are being talked about sometimes are water friendly to start with, but you need to maybe have more education in other areas.
Indeed. Well, a lot of what the World Craft Council does is take lessons from particular areas and then distributes them to others. And as Mr. Saad has mentioned, the Kutchis have been particularly innovative. And a friend of mine, Irfan Kutri in Kutch, in the village, I think it's Daradam, because of the scarcity of water, they've now been able to recycle the water in their dyeing process. And they can work with little. And their lessons, and I've been with Irfan in countries like Indonesia, where he can explain their methods in other countries. So a lot of what we have to tell is from the bottom up. I mean, textiles globally uses 50% of the world's water. It's an incredibly thirsty, I should say, industry.
Chachi, if I could turn to you, you know, you've been associated with the World Craft Council for quite some time. Maybe you could just take us through some of the specific policies that you have, which are the flagship schemes that you actually run.
I have been working with World Craft Council since 10 years. And we, as a secretariat, ensures that we unite the countries, the member countries, and we ensure that the sustainability of crafts are well taken care of. And for that, we have two main flagship projects. One is the World Craft City, and the other one is the World Craft Award of Excellence. So in the Craft City also, when we form the application form or for the evaluation, we ensure that the craft sustainability is ensured by all, even the jurors, when they go for evaluation, they ensure that the sustainability of craft is maintained. And about even the nation, when they go for production or anything, the nation is not affected by any of the products. So we ensure the sustainability of the crafts. And as a secretariat, we ensure that all these national entities, member countries, and all the members of the World Craft Council are united and they work as a family.
Mr. Biswas, if I could turn to you next. You're the Secretary General of the Satwik Council. And you do certifications, right? And now apparently you're going to start certifying fashion as well and clothing as well to make sure it's Satwik. And presumably in that certification process, you keep in mind all the various aspects of sustainability that there are.
As Secretary General was talking that when we are talking about the steps and the entire process where the garment is made basically naturally. So usually today we don't have any of the mechanism which will actually certify the product, and that's where we come in. So whatever value the World Craft is trying to create, we will make ensure that when the garment is actually gone to the consumer or to the brands, whatever, their certification, it's a certified product. So everybody knows, and even it's blockchained. So it's the first time we are into we are into everywhere right now. We are touching almost 2 million people a day. Various products, airlines, trains out of India. We are almost available in 5 countries right now. But textile was very dear to my heart. I always wanted to do it from a very long time, but probably it took us 2 years to develop this manual. And this manual talks about that how we can certify a particular garment, especially when it's coming from a region. So today what happens is that when you go to a clothing store or something, you have those tags, in that. But there is no, but the garment cannot be, you cannot just, scan it and blockchain it. But in the next coming 6-8 months, we are tying up with certain, garment companies that the sustainable garment can be seen through your mobile phone. Yeah.
Dr. Koshi, you work in design, right? And therefore, and the strategy behind it. Would there be certain aspects of the sort of clothes that we wear, the fibers that we use, the technologies that are actually used to manufacture garments and textiles and fashion? I mean, of course, India has a history in that. Before the British came, we were probably doing 70% of global textiles would probably be coming from India. Yeah, a very, very high number anyway. So what do you feel, how do we get that design going correctly in the fibers and the techniques that are being used?
First of all, the coming together of the India Fashion Awards and the World Craft Council today and putting a theme, Fashion for Good, is a great moment for taking the fashion into another orbit. Now, let me address the question, Vikram. Number one, the European Commission study recently released says that 70% of sustainability decisions come at the design stage. If the design stage, you actually apply the sustainability principles from the farming of cotton to the fiber, to fashion, to factory, to overseas or markets, and then cradle to grave up to the disposal, you can actually cut down the CO2 emissions as well as the greenhouse emissions to a considerable extent.
Darning or repairing something which was torn is one aspect, but if you consider high fashion, it's almost considered infra-dig in certain sections of society to wear the same outfit twice. You'll go and you'll spend an extraordinary sum of money buying an outfit and perish the thought that you will ever repeat it. So surely there should be a major campaign of some sort to say, why can't you repeat an outfit? I mean, you should repeat an outfit. You should wear it 10 times.
But this is the wonder of fashion, that it's innovative. Always there are new designers coming up trying to break the rules. And if one of the rules is it always has to be new, somebody's going to come up and break that and do something very radical. And I think Mumbai Fashion Week, when I've visited, has always been a site for that, because it was one of the first in the world, I think, that profiled artisans. Artisans came out on the catwalk along with their products, not just the designers. So watch this space.
We often talk about, certain crops being more environmental friendly than others. Would you feel that there are certain fibers that are more environment friendly than others? And there is a lot of talk about new age fibers, not actually new age because bamboos existed forever, but for example, the use of bamboo and the use of bamboo to get clothing out of that. Are there fibers that are more environmental friendly?
No, this is a very valid question because India is still the second largest cotton producer, but the acreage is one of the highest. But in terms of yield, it has been rather low compared to China and US. But India has not just cotton, it has a highly rich resource of natural fibers. It has got the second largest bamboo. Cultivated bamboo is maybe less, but forest bamboo and cultivated bamboo together will be second largest in the world. Similarly, in banana cultivation, we are also second largest in the world. And if you look at the banana pseudo stem, you get a fiber which is as good as, probably the golden fiber, which you can call it. Or from the, bombax flowers, which are now in spring, as Ritu Kumar has recently said, it has possibility of giving the most warmth in the quills. So you have the bamboo, as you rightly said, you have the banana, you have the pineapple, you have the screw pine, you have such a large variety of multi-fiber, natural fiber possibility, silk and wool, of course. And then we need to have a multi-fiber policy which will not make people think that Surat or such places which are producing the man-made fibers should be the only option. You should have the natural fibers cluster like that to come up, which will also attract attention. Today, the presumption is that a very expensive cotton shirt is for the most privileged class. You pay 3,500 to 4,000 rupees for a cotton shirt of certain brand. I don't want to name the brand. But in terms of the masses consumption in India, other than about 9% of the people using real cotton, rest are all man-made fibers. So unless you move it to more natural fibers which are produced in India, there is no scope of real sustainability, which should be our focus.
All right. Well, I'd like to thank all of you so much. It's been a really, really enlightening discussion. I think all of us have got action points to take away from here on how we can actually have a more sustainable fashion and do more fashion for good.
It's my pleasure to please unveil the manual to our guests. So I would just like my guests to please, unveil the manual officially.
This is a manual on Satvik Textile by Mr. Abhishek Biswas, who's also the founder of Satvik Council of India.
The vision paper that we are talking about is a very significant milestone in that journey towards sustainable fashion, right? Because at the end of the day, it's a plan for actionable future, a blueprint. And I would love to start with Dali Koshiji to actually talk about why this vision paper was thought of and what stage it is at really, and what's gone on behind the scenes to actually put that onto paper and actually realize the vision that is fashion for good.
Yeah, I want to, first of all, trace this history a bit. The Indian Fashion Awards was started 4 years back. Somewhat coinciding in 2019 was the major pandemic, the COVID pandemic. The world looked at fashion in a completely new perspective. There was no new prism through which fashion was looked at. Well-being, health anxieties, being taken care of in a comfort zone through fashion became a prime importance to people. And probably, arising from this kind of a thinking, the world moved from a number of garments being put away for the time being, from formal to informal dressing, from casual to athleisure dressing. A number of people became very, very comfort-oriented even in night and loungewear, work patterns from home. And it really started affecting. And Philip Kotler, the marketing guru, has written a very beautiful article in Harvard Business Review looking at the type of new customers who have emerged, including minimalist, health-conscious customers, and who are really almost paranoid about wearing clothes of a certain kind. So when Indian Fashion Awards looked at fashion for good. I think it was a thought process which is, the time has come for such a kind of new thinking.
Mr. Sandeep, the kind of vision that we're talking about also involves protecting artisans. That's a very important piece in this puzzle. At the end of the day, it is about safeguarding their interests and also, in a way, that creating a direct link between the customers and the local makers. What do you think is the best approach towards that?
So, today, slow fashion has become a buzzword, right? But if you look at it, our artisans have always practiced what the principles of slow fashion are, which is basically, environment, sustainability, durability, and ethical practices. So the thing is that environment sustainability linked to our traditional crafts and handicrafts has always been an intrinsic part of the whole process. So whether you look at it in terms of energy efficiency, because obviously they were not really using mechanized methods. Secondly, if you look at sourcing from local materials, so that there is no great transportation involved. But sustainability actually has two other pillars apart from environment sustainability. One is economic sustainability, and the other is sustainability of the community. So unless the artisans have economics sustainability, you're going to find a situation where you can have all the environment sustainability that you want, but if the artisan at the end of the day is not being able to earn a decent livelihood out of whatever they're doing, it's not likely to sustain. Now, what is it that is essential for that economic stability, sustainability? Now, today we have new and new emerging markets. In the introduction, for example, it was mentioned that India only has 5% of the global trade in terms of, textiles and fashion. So what is happening today is that you have more and more different kind of customers to whom the artisan is requiring to sell. See, earlier the artisans or the handloom makers or whatever were catering to local audiences, people like themselves. Today they're having to sell to people who are very distant places. They could be in any part of the world. And the artisan actually has no means of knowing what is it that is desired by those people and what is it that they would pay for. So there is that kind of linkage that needs to be created between the markets and the artisan becomes very important.
The intersection of crafts and technology is a very interesting opportunity. Comes with challenges, but it's a very important part of what this vision is all about as well. So tell us more about the ways in which you've actually reached out on the ground and made that impact in terms of the kind of work that you've been doing with the several villages that you've been associated with, also with the government.
So I'll tell you an example. We are working on a project. It's called India Handmade. It's an initiative by government where they wanted to uplift artisans and weavers so that they are able to create products for the market. But the only problem there is that we have created an e-commerce portal, but there is no attraction as such. The reason behind that is that the products which they are making is not what people want. And that is where we are intervening there, that we should create a product which people want. So there is a lot of data which we are taking from the internet, understanding the trend, and then interpolating that data to create a product and giving them the design idea that they see these are the kind of a product that you should work upon.
Mr. Dali Koshi, a very important point that was just mentioned by Mr. Sandeep as well is the role of educational institutions, how it's a very important step that we start right from the school level to inculcate that habit, to inculcate that awareness, because at the end of the day, it's the consumer who we are talking about.
See, in the vision paper, we are looking at the policy making. One of the stakeholders is the government and the policy makers, including the central and state governments. Then there is, of course, the manufacturers, the exporters, the retailers, and also the kind of things which were mentioned, the consumers. So when a vision paper looks at sustainability, you have to look at education institution, research institution as also one of the stakeholders. So we have certainly added that as a very important part, because after all, the next generation is going to be influenced by the curriculum. But as we had earlier discussed, entire process of green design, which we have discussed, if you recall, requires certain kind of new terminology to look at the entire curriculum. Design is no more the usual designing, because say, the European Commission report, which said about 70% of the decisions are made at the design stage. If it is so, then you need to have an eco-design, green design approach to the entire policy. So the curriculum on design itself need to undergo change. The second is about green manufacturing, or what we call is more frugal manufacturing, or various kinds of approaches are there. So the manufacturing needs to look at carbon emissions from cradle to grave at a very serious level. Then you have also the entire process of measuring the carbon emissions, greenhouse emissions, looking at Higgs index kind of measuring of the entire impact of carbon footprints, which has gone through in the process of making this particular garment. So when you look at the complexity of garment or textile, the issue is about multiple processes which a particular thing has to undergo. Let us look at a garment Dr. Sad is wearing, a shirt. It has at least 36 stages by which a garment comes out. So when you look at from the farming stage of the cotton, it is said that because of the chemical inducement into the various process of the cotton farming, the high content of the chemicals in the cotton farming is a major impediment to getting a green label for the cotton. Then when you go into dyeing and printing, or when you go into creating actual stitching process, whether there is a sweatshop, whether there is a child labor. There was fire tragedy in Bangladesh by which entire garment sector was really under pressure, completely revising the policies of the women employment, for example, in the garment factories. So you look at the social angle, you look at the economic angle, you look at the ethics. So what happens is the entire value chain needs to have traceability of the exact cost for carbon emissions. Then only you can continue with the sustainable policy.
The vision paper will be a very significant step towards A, raising awareness, B, reaching out to the multiple stakeholders, and C, also safeguarding the interests of the artisans. That's just three of the many pointers that the vision paper actually will be delving into. And ladies and gentlemen, a very important moment right now where we will have the working group approach paper on fashion for good being revealed. This is not just text and paper. These are not just words. These are actually action points in order to have a more sustainable future for ourselves, for our coming generations, the terms of reference for the way forward. So I request our panelists to participate in this moment along with a round of applause. It's a very important moment as far as the journey towards sustainable fashion is concerned.
Thank you very much, and we hope by April we will have this full vision paper ready, and hopefully there will be a CEO conclave, which we hope to do in Delhi sometime, with the full action plan to be given to the industry and the government at that point in time. Thank you very much.